It's the weekend double header time, quadruple header if you count Saturday and Sunday together. But let's not look too far or get ahead of ourselves. We're only talking about what's happening on Saturday. It all begins at the Brabant Stadium in the heat. Yes, it's starting to get progressively hotter in Mumbai by the day before the monsoons hit. So in the afternoon heat, it's Bangalore taking on Gujarat. Yes, the team who are flying high in this tournament. And at the very start, let me tell you, only for the second time in this tournament, we've got a team who, perhaps thanks to the heat, maybe other factors involved, have decided to bat first. Francois du Plessis walks out, wins the toss and says, we'll have a bat first. So that's the big news. As I said, only the second team. The other was the team who are in the opposition today. Let's quickly go and meet our panel on this Saturday afternoon, a lot cooler where we are than where the players are out there. Lisa Sthalekar, Joy Bhattacharjya. Lisa, first reaction from you. We were waiting and waiting and waiting. Finally, one team did it. Now Faf's done it.
We expect that the afternoon games and also the pitch is getting a little bit slower, lower, that you want to actually take full toll and try and score as many runs as you can batting first. It's been done once. It took a very long time, but I think we'll start to see in the afternoon games that teams will start to bat first.
Yep, we're going to tell you about the changes shortly, Joy, but Hardik Pandya was also very clear that we would have also liked to bat first. And in fact, he's the one captain, Joy, who at the start of the tournament, when everyone was going, what's going on? Day game, surely someone wants to bat first? He said, yeah, but lost the toss, blah, blah, blah. But he's actually, I think, for a change now, teams are being honest about it. It's not a bad idea batting first in that heat.
No, it's not a bad idea at all batting first in the heat, and you know just setting targets on grounds like this, allowing these batsmen to be tired out before they come out. So look, this kind of heat, and it's unprecedented heat. You know, this is the worst of the summer. And Kolkata's had some rain. There's been no rain in that side of the country. Yeah, it's a good decision and very interesting because there's a whole lot of history with this match. If you have a look at the teams, you'll find out. But it's a really, really interesting clash.
Yep, we will talk more about that. But what about the teams? Faf du Plessis was almost walking away from our good friend Simon Dool, having said, same team, Dooley. And then he said, oh, hang on a sec, I've got one change. And he basically said it's a tactical change. They know there's Rashid Khan at the other end. So instead of Suyash Prabhudesai, they have brought in Mahipal Lomror with the possibility of trying to counter Rashid Khan possibly. But that's the one change for Bangalore, Lisa. Interesting one there with them batting first. Maybe it's a good idea whether it's heat or not, just to put runs on the board for that one VK factor, perhaps.
Yeah, I think the fact that they've given it to Lomror as well, originally from Rajasthan, and is known to go big as well. And we know that Rashid Khan now has almost got into his own. You know, once upon a time, and even in last IPL, he was going none for 24, 25, 26, but he's actually set him. Ideally, you want your top men to do the job because they're used to doing it and they're used to playing him. But I don't mind it. And it's good to actually give some of these guys who have been on the bench an opportunity at some stage throughout the tournament. So I'm glad it's now.
Yeah, and he bowls a bit as well, Joy. We've seen him. He's been on the fringes of selection for different franchises. And I think in a big game like this, and it is a big game, it's getting to that stage when they need to tot up the 2 points every time pretty much.
Yeah, look, Mahipal Lomror was, if you remember, he and Rishabh Pant, you know, just before they started their first class career, they were the two destroyers in North Indian cricket. You know, they'd play all these Vijay Hazare and CK Naidu matches and they'd score tons and tons of runs. And nobody at that time, they were considered equally big talents. And it's really interesting that, you know, I think last year he was with Rajasthan. He's done the rounds. He's always there at every year for the trials for all the teams. And what they'll be telling him is, look, we want nothing out of you. I mean, if you know what Faf is doing, Faf is probably telling him, don't worry, you come in, you give Rashid Khan a whack. If you get out, that's fine. Don't worry about it because you can hit spinners a long, long way. You know, so you give him a whack. If you get out, you get out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But he'll free his mind, and Lomror will really just enjoy the opportunity of going out there and, you know, giving it a whack.
What about the opposition? Gujarat, remember, while Hardik Pandya might talk about how he's would have liked to have batted first today, they don't have a bad record when it comes to batting second. Not that they do it easily. They take their time. They write an interesting script. They take it to the last ball, but they win games. And we'll show you those facts and figures in a moment. But first and foremost, the 11 that they've put out in the park. One was a forced change. The very promising Yash Dayal has a bit of a niggle. So Pradeep Sangwan comes in, and up there it's Sai Sudarshan who's making his way back in. Musical chairs between him and Abhinav Manohar. Interesting one, Pradeep Sangwan, Lisa, every time we talk about it, one of IPL history's favorite bits of trivia. Long time ago, when the under-19 boys were being selected in the draft, Delhi had the first choice. And there was a certain under-19 captain, winning captain, called Virat Kohli. They said, we love him, but we've already got Sehwag, we've got Gambhir, we've got too many players up top. So we'll go for a bowler. We'll go for Pradeep Sangwan. Who's up next? Bangalore. Really? Can we have it then? Yep, we'll take it. Thank you. So that's it. Virat Kohli went to Bangalore thanks to Pradeep Sangwan.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that story.
Yeah, Amrit Mathur, the guy who actually was there on the table, he keeps saying it. He said it's a huge mistake. And, obviously it's one of the biggest mistakes in IPL history. And I remember Pradeep Sangwan because he was with Kolkata for 3 years. And he's a fantastic, fantastic guy. Later, he was, played for Delhi for many years under Virat Kohli. And of course, has been in the fringes of India selection. Is pretty decent with the ball. He's enjoying a bit of a renaissance. 31 years old. He's just become captain of Delhi this year for the one-day format. He's starting to get back into it. And, he's like a bit of a senior leader now. And that's really interesting because I remember Pradeep Sangwan, this big baby-faced kid, who got into a little bit of trouble because some uncle of his gave him some medicine which he shouldn't have had. Poor guy got banned for a year for no reason at all. And, he can do things with the ball. He knows Virat Kohli well. He's bowled to him enough in the nets in Delhi. And it'd be interesting to see him back again in the field.
Yeah, and for Abhinav Manohar, it seems a strange one, Lisa, because early on in the season, lots of promise. He had one cameo. Then he didn't get a couple of games where he was pushed down the order. They kept pushing somebody else up. And then suddenly he finds himself out of the team. Prabhu Desai comes in, has a great innings, and out he goes, and in comes Abhinav Manohar. Now the musical chairs continues.
Yeah, and this is the IPL, isn't it? Once you start to lose a few games, they start to go, okay, we need to make some changes. Obviously, it's never the senior players. Very rarely is it the senior players. And then you start to go, okay, maybe we can start to meddle.
Thank you, Lisa. But yeah, the other reason we were thinking of Suyash Prabhu Desai is because he's the one who's been left out to get in Mahipal Lomrod. Now, we started talking about Gujarat not having a bad time of it when they bat second, whether it's afternoon or evening. But Joy, it's almost as if they want to entertain the crowd. It's almost as if they want to give a few heart attacks to their spectators. They get there in the end, just.
Yeah, I was thinking that the television network star who has the rights to the game, they should be paying them a bonus because they have caused the most exciting finishes this year. And see, I think the great thing about it is how many players they've empowered to finish it for them. I mean, Hardik finishes it, you can understand. Tewatia comes and finishes it. Okay, he's got a bit of a referee. Then Rashid comes and finishes it with the bat. Tewatia sets it up. Then both of them finish it together. Tewatia sets it up. Rashid finishes it. Miller plays a blinder. I mean, what are these guys on? I mean, it's fantastic. And they're passing the baton around. It's a fearless team. It's clearly, I had a chat with the CEO, and they're clearly a team who's really, really enjoying themselves because, as a coach, as a unit, Gary Kirsten is anyway a very calm guy. He's a really nice guy. And Ashish Nehra is still more one of the guys than on the other side. They still regard him as more of a player, a senior player and a mentor rather than a coach who's like management and not one of them. And, lots of teams trying to do this. Every team, obviously, at the start of the season tries to get that sort of atmosphere in the dressing room. But it's like a film hit, You can put all the ingredients, but sometimes you'll get it and sometimes it just will not turn out. But Gujarat have that charm. This year, they are that charm team where, somewhere fortune is sitting on them and saying, you're going to have a good time together. So, yeah, you can make it out in the way they play and the belief with which they play.
I mean, it's like a chicken and egg situation, Lisa. It's one thing to say, okay, we are playing with that belief and therefore we are winning. Or is it because we are winning, we are getting that belief to say we can win again?
Yeah, obviously watching the first couple of games, and I remember maybe it was the second game that they managed to, smuggle away from the opposition. And Hardik was actually sitting in the dugout and he was just giggling. He just couldn't believe what he was seeing. He didn't think that they were going to get across the line. So I actually feel that early on in the tournament, they got away with it. And now there is that belief that they can win. And the opposition know that they're not out of it. Sometimes once you start to win those type of games, it creates a culture within that group, that environment, that it doesn't matter what the situation is, someone will put their hand up. It doesn't matter who it is. It may not be the regulars, but someone has that belief that can take the game away from them. And they start to actually really believe in that, and almost oppositions wait for it. They're waiting for it. So they're winning half the battle before they even get on the park, to be honest.
Yeah, that particular game Lisa was referring to was, of course, one of Tewatia's heists. It was also the game. The reason why Hardik Pandya was sitting there was he was a little upset because he had got run out and he was not too pleased with life in general. And at the end, it was a combination of, okay, I was sulking, now I'm in disbelief. So he didn't quite know what to think at that point in time. But
it happens. It happens with these runs. I'm telling you, in Kolkata 2014, you start winning, you win 2-3. Somebody's putting up their hand, somebody else is putting up their hand. It's infectious. And as I said, you cannot manufacture it. You can put in all the ingredients and hope it comes out. You cannot manufacture it. It happens, and it's magic.
I'm trying to draw a parallel, Joy, and I'll start with you on this one. I'll take you back to, I know the other day was the great anniversary of Brendan McCullum kicking the IPL off in grand style. But it was also a year that finished with an unexpected team winning the tournament. And it was Rajasthan, not quite the Rajasthan of today. It was the enigmatic Shane Warne leading them with a bunch of youngsters. Nobody expected them to do well. And suddenly they came out and did well. Now, I'm looking at this Gujarat team this time. I know they are a new franchise. And so everyone was a new franchise in 2008. But they were still different from the other teams. Many teams looked settled. They had the stars. They had the icon players. And here was Rajasthan. Okay, we finished all the teams. Who do they have? Oh, Shane Warne. He's just sort of semi-retirement. He's going to captain them. And a few youngsters. And the one Shane Watson who hadn't quite become the Shane Watson that we knew. So is there a parallel we can draw? An almost enigma of a captain like Hardik Pandya and a few players you're not expecting coming and performing?
Yeah, I would actually. That is the closest parallel. If you look at it, what they did in 2008 and again 2008, I remember the same way we would be looking, and to be honest, we were all how terribly wrong we were. We were looking at that batting and saying that the only Indian batsman they have of any note is Mohammad Kaif, and he's like not really known to be the fastest player in the world. And as it turned out, Mohammad Kaif doesn't get a chance in the 11. Ravindra Jadeja plays like a rock star that Shane Warne says that he is. Yusuf Pathan hits everybody out of the park. Sapnil Aznautkar comes and does some fantastic things with the bat. And Shane Watson just has the season of his life. I mean, that's the point. You're absolutely right. The same way, and having that team that looks weak on batting, a few bowlers here and there. Sohail Tanvir turns up and, nobody can play Sohail Tanvir. He gets 23 wickets this season. He's a top wicket taker. It's very close to that because rarely do you see a team with seemingly such low batting resources just make it through on spirit and a certain, comradeship in that batting unit, the team unit that just seems to take them through. And if you remember that match, there were a lot of heists in that tournament that year as well. Shane Warne scoring 23 of the last over. Shane Warne hitting sixes for the team to win. So there are a lot of those same things that these guys are doing out now. And if you look at all the IPL teams, I think that would be the closest to the Gujarat of this year.
Yeah, in fact, Lisa, I mean, one of the things we looked at for Gujarat this year was the fact that there have been different players who've been standing up at different times. Of course, Tewatia, you remember, because it's of the drama. But again, a close parallel to the fact that we've already mentioned the Swapnil Aznautkar who made some big runs. Watson did it. So did Sohail Tanvir with the ball. Shane Warne with the bat. So that is another parallel we can draw.
Yeah, and the amount of player of the match performances from Gujarat Titans, there's so many. They're not relying on one or two individuals. And then the other parallel is someone like a Dave Miller who has been around the IPL for how long and just hasn't really set the world on fire. And everyone's like, how does he still get a gig? but he pulls off 94 amazing runs. Rashid Khan, who hasn't scored many runs with the bat, and everyone, coaches keep saying, how about he gets rid of the helicopter and hits straight down the ground in the V? He doesn't need to do all the funkiness. Well, that funkiness has paid off dividends for Gujarat this season. So it is interesting and fascinating to see how they go through. I mean, that they haven't. Once they lose a couple of games, I wonder how they'll cope. But at the moment, they're flying high.
Well, if Gujarat could be compared to Rajasthan a la 2008, we're trying to draw a comparison with the opposition, Bangalore, and we're comparing them with Bangalore. So we're basically looking at what they've done in previous years, and are they starting to do that all over again? Now, Joy, it's the second half of the season, and there's some alarm bell that seems to ring, or certainly did in 2020, did in 21. Look at that start. 5-2, you take any time. You've got points on the board, couple of losses here and there, and you're all set. Great, second half of the season, now let's go and do it. They don't. Look what happens 2020, 2021, 22, they've started with 2 losses.
Yeah, they start well. They seem to get the combination well. Again, I think Bangalore has got the curse. They've got the Calcutta problem, which is that the moment they lose a couple of matches, they start tinkering around a lot. And they haven't tinkered around this year as much as they normally do. By this time, normally in Bangalore, even though they're winning, nobody knows who's batting where. They're all in total confusion. They will be hoping that they change the script a little bit. See, Sanjay Bangar is a much calmer person. I think he looks at the game in a very different way. And I think what he's trying to bring to the squad is a certain amount of consistency. If you notice, they've surrounded Virat with very calm people. Faf du Plessis, Sanjay Bangar. These are all personalities who are calm, who are measured. So they're trying to get that stability into the team. I know Shahbaz Ahmed is a fantastic teammate. From everyone in Bengal has told me that he's really fantastic to be around. So I think they're trying to avoid it. But I just would say that this is a Bengaluru team that is still, the point is their explosiveness comes from Maxwell and Kohli. And I think that, they need them also to fire. And I think so far those guys haven't had the tournament. And whatever little Virat has had, normally he's had in the start of a tournament, not towards the end. This time, everyone's hoping he turns it around.
Yeah, and they'll hope Bangalore turns it around as well, because often we've seen their fortunes link, Lisa. But that one word that, we have a little dictionary on Cricbuzz Live that we have a few that have been banned. But purely for the sake of Bangalore, we're going to pull it out again, because how desperately do they like a bit of momentum going into the playoffs, assuming they can try and get there somehow.
Staff, obviously new skipper, different players in. There is still this culture, and all of the fans live and breathe every moment with them, are on social media saying, can't believe they're going through it again. So that the M word for finals is actually really important, because as a player you go, great, we're in a good situation, we've got knockout stages coming, we're ready to go.
Yeah, and then you have certain other little problems, and we call them matchups. It's another M, but this one's allowed. We're allowed to say matchups on the show, because it's just been such an integral part, particularly of T20 cricket, and we've seen it works. Whether or not you believe in the kind of matchups of a left-arm spinner not being able to bowl to a left-hander, etc., those we've eliminated. But Joy, player versus player matchups, and we've seen that. It was Hasaranga against Sanju Samson, how brilliantly that panned out. This time around, we've got a new one, as if Virat Kohli needs any more problems. Virat Kohli versus his good mate and countryman, Mohammad Shami. How does he get over this one?
That's what Virat has a tendency to just, as I said, push at the ball early. Shami has this beautiful outswing shape. He tends to nick it a bit. And, Virat has faced him so often in the nets that he literally to pack his bat away and said, you don't show your face outside the off stump for the first over, I'll tuck you behind my pads. But yeah, it's something that he'd be aware of, because I think Virat, once he goes there, he plays purely by instinct. I think all batsmen, you can't afford to predetermine shots in the first few overs, especially to a bowler of the quality of Shami. So it's a tough one for him. And I think he just say, ugly, good, can I just sort of hold on? It doesn't matter if I don't score 2 or 3 runs, just get off strike, see off Shami's first spell. Because see, I know Lockie Ferguson's a class bowler, Rashid Khan's a class bowler, and it's not that it's going to be easy at the other end. But I think all Virat needs to do something is just last 4 or 5 overs first. I think he'll just tell himself it doesn't matter what the score is. We've got enough explosiveness, or I can hit at 200 if I'm set. Let me just last 5 overs, and I think that's a big one in his head.
I think the main thing as well is try to ensure that he's actually up the other end for the start, and obviously the first ball doesn't need to face it, but almost this is where you're batting in partnerships and you start to go, hang on, my matchup's not great against ABC. Can you take the majority of the balls? I'll try and get off strike. I think what Virat probably needs to try and do is be a little bit selfish and leave the ball. Think of almost Test cricket. Give himself a little bit more time. There is no harm in leaving the ball because we know that he's class and that he's going to catch up. Target other people. Don't target Mohammad Shami because the matchup hasn't been good, and that outside edge, no doubt, and slips waiting is going to be in danger. So just be a little bit more circumspect at the start of his innings.
Yeah, that's one way it could be done. Test match lengths, why not test match leaves? But Shami has been key, whether it's against Virat Kohli or against any opposition, Joy. He's really been their enforcer in the power play, even if the rest of the good-looking lineup, the bowling lineup, if I could call it that, Lockie Ferguson's got hit the odd time, Rashid Khan 4 overs for 45, Hardik Pandya, whether bowling or not, we're not sure. Shami has been that common factor this season.
Yeah, absolutely. They've used him beautifully. They've used him to attack up front. They've always given him 2 overs up front. Sometimes they've given him a 3rd over up front when he's been really shaping the ball well. And he's been, again, the 2 guys who've been deputed and told by their teams to just go and attack are doing it so well. Shami on one side, Umesh Yadav on the other. I mean, Umesh Yadav is the one thing Kolkata has got right, in the sense that they've given him a job. They're saying, you're not going to finish. You don't need to worry about the death overs. Because even Shami is not a great death overs bowler at all. But give him those 2 up front. If he takes wickets, give him a 3rd there, give him somewhere in the middle. He usually comes back, gets wickets. But a lot of the other wickets that you see, or a lot of Gujarat's success is because of the early inroads that Shami is making. And the fact that even Shami bowling at one end is putting so much pressure that the other guy is also getting wickets because they're trying to get away from Shami and hit somebody or the other. It'll be interesting to see who gets a new ball with Shami. Are they going to give it to Pradeep Sangwan or do they bring him back later? I'll be really interested in knowing. I think they'll probably, because they like to use Alzari Joseph as their 3rd bowler. So it'll be very interesting to see how they're going to rotate that round.
Yeah, it had to be a quick change of plans. Remember, Yash Dayal just reminding all of you, a bit of a niggle. So they've had to bring in Pradeep Sangwan, but the rest of the bowling lineup looking nice and settled. Well, at the end of the day or half the day, whichever way you look at it, we're going to have some changes in the points table. Halfway through, it's going to be about what Gujarat and Bangalore do. And of course, later at night, we've got another game coming. So let's have a look at the points table and see where it stands for these 2 teams for the moment. Rajasthan could get to 14 if they win tonight. Remember, they're playing Mumbai. Gujarat win, they get to 16. So we could have 16 and 14 and 2 teams really looking down on everyone for the moment. However, if things are different, if Mumbai get a couple of points and play spoiler to Rajasthan, they stay stuck on 12. Bangalore get to 12. That makes it interesting. 14, 12, 12, 10, 10 will make it even more interesting as we're getting into the second half. Lisa?
Yeah, don't you just love the competition and the ladder? Yeah, it will come down to the last weekend, no doubt about it. There'll be a loggerhead jam somewhere, and it looks like that. But out of the teams so far, Gujarat and Rajasthan have looked the 2 outstanding sides, and no surprise they're at the top, and they've got a real good opportunity to ensure that they try and finish 1 and 2. And that's what you want to try and do in this competition, because we know with how the finals are placed, you get a second bite of the cherry, which is very important.
Yeah, two things they have to look at, Joy. One is, of course, there will be a point for a team like Gujarat where they will be mathematically in the top 4. But we know, as Lisa just mentioned, that top 4 is not always good enough. You want to think of top 2 and not top 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like 2009, where they developed that system after, Deccan Chargers just blew away Delhi after, Delhi dominated the league phases. I think it's a fantastically fair system, that 1 and 2. And what it does is it also extends the tournament late in as well, because you get less dead games, because what's happening is 1, 2, and 3 and 4 also become important. So it's not just about qualifying, it's being in the top 2. And those are things that are really important. The other thing is we have already just about reached the stage of the tournament where if you are a Sunrisers Hyderabad supporter or team, you're putting on the television and saying, go Bangalore. Or if you're a supporter for, even for this thing, by Gujarat, you're looking at the evening game and saying, come on, Mumbai, just sock it to them. You've come to that stage in every year that you have in this tournament where people are now supporting other teams to pull down one league for them.
Yeah, Mumbai are going to have a lot of fans tonight. That's for sure. We love the men in pink, but for many reasons, sentimental reasons, for the reasons Joy just mentioned. And of course, the matchup we've talked about is already underway at the Brabant Stadium. Mohammad Shami versus Virat Kohli. As that plays out very quickly, Joy, give us your question for the day. People have got maybe a few seconds to think about it.
Yep, interesting guy. And this is a guy who's somewhere. Which Indian's only wicket in T20s is a Lahore-born cricketer who played his last international match in 2022? That means not this guy, but this guy has only played one match, but the guy he's bowled against was a Lahore-born cricketer who played his last international match in 22. And obviously, this Indian cricketer has played only one T20 international. That's the hint.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Only one T20 international. Aha. I'm getting a little aha there, but I'm not saying any more. Lisa, think about it. Joy doesn't need to think about it. He knows the answer already. All of you, hashtag Cricbuzz Live. If you haven't already, please do get the answer in. Can you get the answer in while Kohli's still batting? No, I'm just being cheeky there. Let's get a prediction for the score at the end of 20 overs. This is Bangalore. Remember, once again, for the second time only in this tournament, in what, 43 games, is it? Something like that. Yeah. I think it's game number 43. A team has decided to bat first, and that is Faf du Plessis and Bangalore. All right, Joy, your score for?
I'm going to go high. How many more times is Virat Kohli going to fail? He's going to get it right sometimes. 180, not higher than that. It's a big stadium, a great bowling attack. 180.
All right, 180.
I'm going to go a little bit lower. I'm going to go 163.
Ooh, 163. You're giving the Gujarat bowlers quite a lot of credit, right? 163. That matchup is still on. Interestingly, they were waiting for us to finish our show. Mohammad Shami decided he wanted to measure his run-up all over again. They weren't very happy about it, but if you missed your run-up, why not? Measuring tape's not far away. Get it done. And that's exactly what Mohammad Shami is doing. In the meantime, let's get to that fascinating battle. We'll be back with...
hang on. You've got to... your score.
Oh, I tried to escape that one. Okay.
Yeah.
180. Shall I get into 170s? Yes, I shall. I shall get into 175. 175. Yes, indeed. That score that we love. 175 for Bangalore batting first against Gujarat. It should be a cracker of a battle. 10th over. How far are they going to be down the road? We shall find out. That's Cricbuzz Combox, and this is Cricbuzz Live.